A warning to everybody watching this video. This video is filmed entirely in 9:16 aspect ratio, so if you're on PC that really doesn't matter. But if you're on a phone, you should probably turn your device 90 degrees, whatever direction you should turn it. Alright, and on with the video. So after busting my load with that Enter the Gungeon video, which you should totally watch by the way if you haven't, I've been looking into other roguelites published by Devolver, and wouldn't you know it, I found one. Cult of the Lamb. Downwell is probably a game you've heard of before, be it through crossovers, people playing it, or some other third thing. It's by far one of Devolver's most popular games. And it's really weird to me how little people have actually played it, let alone beat it. Literally, on the global achievements on Steam, less than 10% of people have actually beaten the game. Now that doesn't cover all platforms, but it gives you a good perspective on what's to come. My real question is, why haven't so many people played it? Downwell is what I would argue one of the most well-known roguelites out there. So I say I give this game the recognition it deserves. It's time to get Downwell. This game's most standout feature, if you couldn't tell by just looking at it, is this entire game is in 9:16 aspect ratio. Okay, reason number one why people didn't give this game a proper shot, I can barely f***ing see it. If you are playing this game on a 16:9 monitor, it'll probably look like this. The game in the center with a bunch of random nonsense off to the sides. It's like when arcade games got ported to consoles, how they typically have some kind of border just showing art, and that's pretty much the same thing here. Downwell was originally made for mobile, then ported to PC and all the other consoles. Which, I'm just gonna say, this game feels so much better with a controller, but that's not relevant. You either play it with a touchscreen, it feels wrong, you either play it with a controller, you can't see it. This is an issue, but I don't really see a way around it without drastically changing how the game plays, so it's more of just a limitation issue, I guess. Fortunately for me, I have a monitor that can swivel onto its side, so I can play this the way God intended. I wanted to get that out of the way at the start because I won't be bringing it up for the rest of the video. Here we are at the Caverns, the first world of the game. Well, I guess saying world is a little generous, more like the first pit. Suppose this is a good time to go over how the game actually plays, eh? Well, Taro, which is the name of the ink block test of a character, by the way. Finally, some relatability! Well, Taro has two things he can do. Well, technically three. Move, obviously, jump, and use his signature gun boots. These gun boots are your attack, air stall, extra height, jack of all trades. The gun boots are not only something I wish I could make in real life, but are also the central mechanic of the game. Since we're going down a well, enemies naturally appear under you, which is the perfect time to shoot them with your boot blasters. Now, the boots do have a limitation, though. Like all guns, they can run out of ammo. And when that happens, you're pretty much a fish out of water until you can land on the ground again to refill it. Or jump on an enemy's head for an instant kill with the added benefit of refilling the boots. Which, jumping on enemies is more risky, but it'll build up your combo meter. The combo meter will start building the more and more enemies you defeat before touching the ground. Alright, reason number two why a lot of people haven't beaten this game, it's really hard. Unlike the title of your game, the character does not go down well. In fact, they fall like a rock, which makes it hard to see enemies coming up from the bottom of the screen, especially if this game is being played with the borders on. Now, firing your gun boots is a way to mitigate this, since you can stall in the air with them, but if you miss landing on top of an enemy, it's likely you'll just go flying past them and probably get damaged from another enemy. But much like every other platformer that has ever existed, the sides and bottoms of enemies will damage you. Plus, if an enemy is all red, they cannot be jumped on, which adds to this. Then throw like 15 of everything all over the place, and that's how basically most all of these levels play off. And because of the difficulty, early on, most runs will probably last like 3 minutes, which isn't a fault of the player, but just the fast-paced nature of the game. Unlike a game like Dead Cells or Enter the Gungeon, runs are more meant to be quick and stressful. Something else that further adds to the difficulty is the combo system I talked about a second ago. The combo meter 100% is not a help to new players to get better at the game. This has something I would like to call the Super Meat Boy effect. It's when you get really far at something pretty easily on your first try, but then you die before finishing it or anything in the game really, which causes you to die earlier and earlier to the point where you're struggling with something you were easily blowing past earlier on. This game has that, but it's not like in the form of a level, but in the form of a number. The more enemies you land on, the higher the combo meter goes up, and the more gems you get when it ends. If you get a combo over 8, you'll get 100 gems. More on gems in a second if you couldn't already imagine what they do. But I think the thing that beats you into risking everything for a higher combo is definitely when you get hit, your combo doesn't go away, only when touching the ground. So your brain just keeps egging you on to go higher and higher with those combos so you can get more gems. And it just leads to so many unnecessary deaths. But then it gets much worse when you couple in the fact that getting a combo of 15 or higher gives you an extra energy cell, and a combo of 25 or higher gets you a heart back. Risking everything for a combo happens very often. On the topic of how fast-paced the game is, in the time it took me to explain all that, we're already on the next sub-level of the well, the Catacombs. Down in the well isn't just endless waves of enemies as you fall through. There are side rooms you can go pick up goodies. If you see this little bubble boy thing on the sides, it'll do one of a few things. A shop, a gun boot mod, or just some gems, who cares? Let me quickly go over what all of those those do real quick. Shops obviously sell stuff in exchange for gems, either increasing the amount of bullets you can fire before touching the ground again, or selling food, giving health back. They don't sell anything more than that because those are your literally only 2 resources in the entire game. Now the last room you can find is pretty special. Gun boot mods will change what type of thing will come out of the boot when you shoot. Bursts, lasers, a whole shotgun, a lot of different stuff. Plus most of these either give you more charge and health, which is also nice. A note for new players, if you get food or a combo of 25 and get health back while you're at max HP, a smaller bar will fill up, and after getting 4 health points or buying some curry, you'll get an extra hit point. Something combo hard. This floor is where enemies really start to spice up. I haven't talked about any of the enemies on the first floor because they're honestly not that interesting. This one you can jump on, this one you can't jump on, this one you can only jump on. You get the deal. But to the second area has some pretty cool ones. Like these guys who throw bones like the ones from Castlevania. These ghosts that jump out from the bottom of the screen trying to get you. Or these big skulls that can be jumped on, but if you shoot at, they'll turn red and start to chase you. I like a lot of them from here. On the topic of enemies, each area doesn't just conclude after you fall through it once. Each area has 3 levels, all with increasing difficulty, both adding new enemies and getting longer. Alright, I've been talking about the catacombs too long, it's time to move on. But before we go to area 3, in between each level you get a choice between some upgrades you can get that are all permanent, like a drone that'll shoot bullets when you do, a fork and knife that'll let you eat corpses to restore health, or one that'll just make shit explode when you jump. The other way that this is kind of a technically roguelike sort of is that every time you die, depending on how many gems you got in total, this bar will go up, unlocking mostly just new palettes for the game, but also new characters we'll go over in a minute. But right now, onto the third area of the game, the Aquifer. Alright, reason number 3 why not a lot of people have beaten this game. Area number 3, the Aquifer. This area, if you couldn't guess, is completely underwater and gives you a countdown until you run out of breath. And when you do run out of breath, I assume you just take a point of damage. I don't know, it never happened to me. Stopping on these thingamajigs does refill, luckily. This area doesn't have water physics like you would imagine, so any hopes of being able to go upwards have been dashed. Might as well talk about those other characters while we're here. They're not exactly other characters, but more other styles. That rope snapped like 4 minutes ago, I'm still falling. First off, we have the default style, which is obviously just the neutral. No cool things to be seen. Arm spin style, which will make it to where you can only find gun modules and no shops in sight. So gems are basically useless, not a fan of this one. Boulder style, which will give you 6 health to start with, but you only get 2 choices for upgrades in between levels. Not a bad one, honestly, probably the second best. Levitate style, which will make you fall slower. There are no drawbacks to this one, it is the best one. Literally just makes combos easier. And the handstand style. It gives you a 30% discount at all shops, but you don't get any upgrades. Yeah, no thank you. If I had to order them from worst to best, it would probably go handstand, default, arm spin, boulder, and levitate style. Anyway, back to area 3, and there's honestly not a ton going on here that's really exceptional to talk about. So let's move on to our final area of the game, Limbo. I hope you've been working on that 100 hit combo achievement up to this point because you're gonna need it. After the first pit of ground here, there is no floor to be seen for the entire area, only random junk you can bounce off of. Not even the enemies help because they're all red. Still falling, by the way. I'm honestly not sure if this is the hardest area or not, but it is certainly the most red. We're almost wrapped up here, might as well talk about everything else we haven't talked about. The graphics I already kind of brought up, but the pixel art looks really nice. Since it only uses like 4 colors, everything is easy to distinct from one another. And also you can change the color palette if you feel like it. Much like Taro, I also carry 12 ink carts on me at all times. And the music is actually quite good. It's nothing standoutish, and I didn't even realize there's only 6 songs in the entire game soundtrack until making this, but all good. I'm a particular fan of the caverns theme. Limbo, as you could probably predict, is quite empty, so let's head to Area 5, which is just simply a boss arena thing. I like this build up with a single shop and a long dirt-filled shaft, it's very ominous. And the boss itself is a giant-ass worm thing, with an eyeball in the middle of its mouth, very gross. You simply have to shoot at its eye and dodge its attacks, where it shoots these dark versions of enemies you have fought previously and just some eye laser things. Get through its first phase and it'll start dropping rapidly, where you repeat with Area 2, 3, and 4 enemies. All until it is finally defeated and you get this cat for some reason, and go home. Also, he's allowed to go upwards with the gun boot, not me, this game's rigged. Overall, Downwell is a perfect little pocket roguelite. For a console game, it's pretty good. You could definitely go worse when it comes to roguelikes, and especially for that price tag of only $3, it is very appealing. But for a mobile game, which this originally was, this is exceptional. If you haven't already played Downwell, I would recommend you check it out. Also, sorry this video is on the shorter side, not nearly as grand as a lot of my others, but I really just wanted to do something to wind down after I spent 6 months talking about Enter the Gungeon. God, I was sick and tired of talking about roguelites, especially roguelites with guns in them. I could have chosen this topic better, admittedly. Oh shit, is that the boss?